Today's episode is brought to you by Modern Grower. Modern Grower is the go-to source for 100% organic, GMO-free microgreen seeds. Trusted by hundreds of growers for high quality and low prices. If you're growing microgreens, start saving at shop.moderngrower.co.
Can you talk about where that industry is right now with farmers and companies looking to offset carbon emissions? Where's that intersection? What's that industry look like, and where do you think it's going?
Right, okay. I always start with talking about Ratan Lal, the professor at Ohio State University. Won the food prize this year and the Japan prize last year for his work on soil carbon. He is the father of a lot of these principles. Many other people globally working on this, but he's a good person to quote, in particular, that he estimated that agricultural soils globally have lost about 1.35 billion tons of carbon over the last 100 years, 120 years. And that if all we did was put that back, the calculation is that would be worth 65 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere. So 415 to, 350. That's a big deal, right? Now, a lot of people will say, look, you can only pack so much carbon in the soil. You can't put 10 pounds of manure in a 5-pound bag. Number one, I think we're a long way from getting to that point, and that agricultural soils represent the world's most scalable solution to climate mitigation. And oh, by the way, putting carbon in soil is a good deal. Unlike carbon being absorbed into the ocean where it destroys productivity, increased carbon in agricultural soils increases productivity. It's a good thing for lots of different reasons. Now, on the flip side of this, you see every week another company committing to be carbon neutral by 2030, 2040, 2050, are committing billions of dollars to stimulate this. And there are lots of groups, the Carbon Underground, the Soil Health Institute, many organizations that we could name that are dedicated to improving this. And what is important, I think, and I've worked on policy. I'm a member of a group called E2, the Environmental Entrepreneurs, that is aligned with the NRDC, the Natural Resources Defense Council. And I was part of a small group that went to the Senate Ag Committee in 2017, and we were with the National Corn Growers and myself. There were about 6 of us, and we talked to folks about getting language in the Farm Bill to incentivize soil health. And we, along with other people that were promoting that, were successful language in that. And it provides funds through Conservation Service and other USDA programs for people to embrace and study and adopt regenerative soil practices, because we understand one of the best ways of increasing soil carbon is to implement these regenerative practices. But what really, I think, incentivizing people works really well in that if there were marketplaces, and there are now, we work with Nori, which is a carbon marketplace, which works with Shopify, which is the company we were working with, and others, companies that have committed to be carbon neutral and realizing that, okay, look, I can try to lower the number of miles my service trucks drive, or I can shut off the lights in our building, or put in LEDs as opposed to incandescent. You can do a lot to reduce emissions, but if you're truly going to become carbon neutral or even carbon negative, you've got to have drawdown. And agricultural soils are the best bet for drawdown. So why not stimulate agriculture to amplify what they're doing and to optimize what they're doing by paying them for the carbon that they're putting in soil? And so there are companies like Indigo, they're funding this on their own balance sheet. The Climate Action Reserve is working with people. Vera registries, they're involved in authorizing and doing things along these lines. But Nori is a really good example of an entity that is creating a marketplace which is bringing interested buyers together with validated sellers of carbon. And they work with Comet Farm, which is a USDA program developed at Colorado State University by Keith Postien and his group. And it's a huge metadatabase of soil types, nutrient, tillage practices, all kinds of things that the grower fills out into a platform. And then that metadatabase uses artificial intelligence to project the amount of carbon that's sequestered versus if they had not been doing those things. And of course, it has to be validated by a third party. And we just completed that process with one grower, Kelly Garrett, in Iowa, who's a very progressive grower, and he was authorized for 20,000 metric tons of carbon over the last 5 years. The neat thing about the NORI program, it's retrospective. It pays for the last 5 years of what has been going on. And it's a 10-year contract they sign. And so he was able to market that. A certain portion of them, I don't think he marketed the whole thing right now, at $15 per ton. And at 20,000 tons at $15 a ton, that's a nice check. And I think growers are becoming very excited. There are other programs out there for them to look into where they can now begin to think about their farm economics, not only about optimizing yield and quality, but optimizing soil carbon as well. And the really remarkable thing about that, as I said earlier, there are two sides of the same coin. When you get a more productive crop, you generally get more soil carbon sequestration, especially if it's accomplished with a variety of regenerative agricultural practices, which in the end is what we're doing because that's what built soil health. And soil health is what keeps the whole system sustainable. That we'll have healthy soils or increased soils as opposed to diminished soils over the next 100 years, as opposed to 1.35 billion tons that Professor Lau has estimated that we have lost over the last 100 years. I'm sure you've watched Kiss the Ground with Woody Harrelson documented. And he mentions in there that people say we only have 60 years of harvest left, and then the soil is going to be gone. That's a scary number, right? I think we can slow that down. I think we can reverse it. I think we can build it back the other way. I think we can grow soil, as Ray Archuleta says in that same film, by these things. And I think the best way to stimulate the speed at which that happens is to incentivize growers by, rewarding them for the carbon they put in the ground. And that's happening right now. And I think our Carbon Now program is a great example of that.
Hello, growers. Want to boost your sales, reach new customers, and streamline your sales process, all from your home office? Ready Farmer 1, my book, is your ultimate guide to making it happen. Imagine increasing your farm's revenue without ever spending a Saturday at the farmer's market. The book will show you how to create, design, and market an online farm store, learn from real farmers sharing real stories about how they move their stores online, freeing up their weekends and increasing their sales. Get my book, Ready Farmer 1, on Amazon and transform your farm business today.